shall proceed with these constituencies, irrespective of the fact that there will be no 12 months at the time the constituencies are created. It is not possible to suspend the Constitution. Whatever way we do it, we either suspend application of those constituencies by the time they are ready, but we cannot propose to suspend provisions of the Constitution through a referendum. What is constitutionalism? I think that is one of the very, very reckless provisions of this. National Police Service, Mr. Speaker, is also under threat. The IG, the police trigger happy, cannot be the ones who are now being affected by some of the provisions. We should be protecting even the police service. We removed it from a force to a service, but now we are saying the commission is not necessary and taking all the powers to the IG. I thought members of parliament.
The Honorable Member for Kandara, you have exhausted your time allocated. Thank you. The Honorable Nguna Ngusia, member for Mwingi West.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the earliest opportunity you have given me this evening to support and strongly support and say the people of Mwingi West will support it 100%. Mr. Speaker, I'll be very economical with the time, bearing in mind so many members have been queuing here since the afternoon, and they will be still queuing on Thursday. So I will not waste the 15 minutes you have allocated to me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank the Speaker for the best ruling I've ever had since I joined this August House, and indeed one of the longest I've ever witnessed so far. Mr. Speaker, he has allayed all the fears that were created and generated by the media over the weekend, and also during this morning, when I watched so many media questioning the timing and constitutionality of BBI. Mr. Speaker, a lot of people have congratulated the President, but let me take this opportunity to congratulate one of my best, actually, political father I have always followed, Honorable Raila Odinga, for the immense contribution he has done to this nation. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to get emotional, but all Kenyans across the divide know what Honorable Raila Odinga has gone through saving this nation. So for this matter, I bow for him for what he has done to the nation. Mr. Speaker, I'm also taking this opportunity because I went through the BBI process from the rallies and other places, actually. And let me take this opportunity to congratulate the party leaders who have really wooed their communities and also Kenyans across the divide to make sure this BBI initiative goes through. And I will not forget my party leader, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. We have done public participation in Machakos and Kitui, and our people really are informed about these issues of BBI. And I will not forget the rest of the party leaders, the likes of Charity Ngilo, the likes of Moses Wetangula, the likes of Mudavadi, and all those who participated across the divide. And my good colleague here, who is also our majority leader, John Bad, and also our chief whip, for that matter. So, Mr. Speaker, based on that, the ostensible objective of this BBI was just to settle all the perennial challenges we are facing as a country. And I'll begin by saying one of the worst, and which will never go in the books of record, is corruption, which has actually dogged our country in many ways.
The Honorable Ngusia, without interrupting you,
yes.
Could you kindly just put on your mask, if you don't mind? Yeah. Please.
It's difficult, Mr. Speaker, but I'll try. I will obey your order. Mr. Speaker, I'll start with the ostensible goal of this BBI paper actually was to sort out the perennial challenges this country has been facing for so long. And I'll start by dissecting them. And also, before I do that, let me remind the members of Parliament and Kenyans across the divide, I have gone through this process which was followed by the BBI task force. And Mr. Speaker, I can confirm there is no constitutional illegality how this process was followed. If you check, we have been done what we call popularizing the initiative, which of course over 4 million Kenyans have appended signatures. We have done what we call printing of the draft, which was distributed across the country. We have done what we call verification of signatures, which actually I've just said over 4 million Kenyans witnessed the case. We have done consideration through the county assemblies. We have really taken the BBI, and 46 out of 47 accepted the bill. Mr. Speaker, now the bill was introduced here, and apparently it is going through on Thursday, the way I'm seeing the mood of the House, both the Senate and the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. So, what was the objective of coming up with this paper, Mr. Speaker? There are so many gains. There is no constitution which can really sort out the mess, or rather, all the issues we have as a country, all the challenges we have as a country. But if BBI paper amendment of this bill is going to be properly implemented, we are going to sort almost 70% of the things we have been perennially facing. Mr. Speaker, I will start with the issue of ethnic antagonism and unfair competition. Most of the time, we will always find certain clashes and doing this and fighting, Mr. Speaker. One of the key contributors of this issue is lack of what we call shared prosperity. Most of the time, you will wake up, if you come from a marginalized area, the only thing you can think is to fight for the little thing you have. But if we going to spread developments across our country, we are going to fix this issue. And I need the honorable member who has spoken, Alice Waome, to agree with me on this. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is shared prosperity. I come from Kitui County, where we had only B-class road, which has never been tarmacked, and I think it is the last one in the country. Right now, let me take this opportunity to congratulate our president. He has done our tarmac, 194 kilometers plus 34. Now it is going on, and that is what we call shared prosperity. Mr. Speaker, if the bill is going to go through, we don't have to go through the anti-shift we have gone in Kitui leadership of lobbying and dense lobbying. We will be distributing our resources equally and also encouraging the government to invest where it has not invested. And this will close the gap between the rich and the poor. This one will close the gap between the areas which are not developed and those who are less developed. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is inclusivity. Prime Minister will be there to represent a certain community. President is there, maybe to represent another community. Deputy President will be there, and many other positions we have just created. This inclusivity is the one which, lack of this inclusivity is the one which actually donked up our country, Mr. Speaker. Every time we fight for few positions we have in senior government management, Mr. Speaker. If we are at all going to have this, we are going to have what we call inclusivity. The inclusion of leader of opposition in this part. Actually, Mr. Speaker, I was proposing, this is the person who is even supposed to be empowered even more than the president to check the government. and the misdoing which will be going on, Mr. Speaker. So creation of this office of leader of opposition is very critical towards oversight of the current government. Mr. Speaker, we always say, I have a right to do this. I have a right to do this. But do you have responsibility as a citizen to guard what is already on the table? Mr. Speaker, this bill has clearly listed all the responsibilities a certain citizen of this country will be executing. And Mr. Speaker, that is why I allowed BBI based on that matter. Mr. Speaker, the issue of natural disasters, even man-made disasters, BBI has proposed several measures to come up with the safety and security of our dear Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, there is also now, which is the biggest gainer, if properly implemented, the issue of devolution. Devolution. We have seen devolution, the way it can work wonders. If you elect the right governor and right MCA, allocating 35% from the 15%, Mr. Speaker, this is going to ensure even the smallest village in this country will get those resources. Issues of creation of World Development Fund, Mr. Speaker. These are some of the things that will ensure there is equitable distribution of revenue we are paying as taxpayers, Mr. Speaker. So the issue of counties developing, we will ease congestion in major cities and people will start migrating back at homes and their respective counties actually to work in those areas. Mr. Speaker, we have talked of lack of national ethos. When will Kenyans think like Kenyans instead of thinking like Akamba, Aluo, Aluya, Boran? To mention all the 42 ethnic groups, Mr. Speaker. So this national ethos, Mr. Speaker, we need to emphasize and make sure, Mr. Speaker, we are going to nurture our families, our small children, to think as a Kenyan, but not to think like a Kalenjin, not to think like a Kamba, not to think like a Luya, and any other community, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, taking the responsibility as a responsible citizen, Mr. Speaker, we are going to have a very prosperous country in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have just come up with the issues, and another win for this BBI is the creation of Youth Commission. Youth Commission. We have been told the youth are the future leaders of tomorrow. But the time to empower youth, it's now, even not tomorrow. It's today. Mr. Speaker, we have seen that majority of our university students, most of the time, they will always clear the university, then they come and also they start training, getting the employment. And you are also forcing this student to pay the loan he borrowed, or he or she borrowed to learn, to pay the school fees. Mr. Speaker, this holiday of 4 years, I think it is a plus for BBI, and I'll be the first one to lure the youth in my constituency to vote it overwhelmingly. Mr. Speaker, there's also issue of tax holiday for our young people. They strain so much. The Youth Enterprise Fund has not really served to the intended parties. But, Mr. Speaker, giving these youth the funds, then exempting them, doing what we call taxation holidays for them, Mr. Speaker. That is a credit, and we are going to witness employment and also a lot of measures. Mr. Speaker, I can see the light is almost on, but the issue of delimitation of constituencies, Mr. Speaker, I cannot imagine Kitui County, one of the biggest counties, bigger than 5 counties, Mr. Speaker. It is not going to get a constituency. So I beseech IBC, Mr. Speaker, to consider the issue of kilometer per person and also issue of 1 shilling per person, Mr. Speaker. If we combine the two, we are going to have a better parliament composed by the best numbers of members of parliament, and we will have equitable distribution of CDF. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support, and Mwingi West support BBI. Thank you.
Very well, the Honorable CNN. We shall now have the Honorable Odhiambo Akoth.
Hey.
No, the Honorable Limo.
Yes.
Honorable
Yes.
Limo. They had already keyed it in.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next one will be the Honorable Adhiambo after you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I was really surprised because already I had the mic here. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important bill in the House, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say it very clearly that this is a house of reason, this is a house of debate, and this is a house which all Kenyans really look upon us to tell them the truth. And only the truth will set this country free. Mr. Speaker, when we are here, we should not really appear as members of parliament only to be rallied around to support or to oppose, but we must have reasons why we are talking about this position or the other position. Mr. Speaker, many members have contributed. However, very few have actually talked about the costs so that the country can decide. You know, it is this house which will guide the country. The country is listening to us and they are looking at how we are contributing to this bill, Mr. Speaker, so that the people in the villages will actually make informed decisions, Mr. Speaker, because tomorrow all the people in the country will actually look back and say, did we guide them properly, Mr. Speaker? Since this BBI story started, Mr. Speaker, there have been reasons why this BBI was brought. And one of the reasons which started this was issues of fighting after election, all that. So we have to look at whether this BBI has really come up with a solution, Mr. Speaker. And beyond that, Mr. Speaker, we have to also guide the country on the most important thing, which is the cost. How much is this process going to cost us, Mr. Speaker? And immediately, Mr. Speaker, because I'm actually a person who has been working around finances for a long time, Mr. Speaker, and I have to say this, that there will be two issues on cost, Mr. Speaker. There is immediate cost, which is the short-run cost, which people have been talking about on the referendum cost. How much will it cost us? But that is not important, because that will be one-off. What is important is a long-term cost, which is caused by the new structures which are coming in place. Because there are more new structures which are coming in place if this BBI is passed, Mr. Speaker. And it is divided majorly into two. Expanded executive, which we have been told it will not be costly, because the Prime Minister, for instance, a Prime Minister who will be sitting in this house will earn the same salary with a member of parliament sitting in this house, which is not true. It is a lie. Because other than the salary of the Prime Minister, there will be a lot of other costs, because the Prime Minister will be equivalent almost to a president. It will be just a lower version of a president, though the powers are not as we thought, because the powers should have been very clear that there will be some sort of independence of the Prime Minister, so that the Prime Minister can discharge their duties without intimidation or without much direction from the President. But anyway, it has come, but it will come with a lot of cost. The whole chunk of people will be working below the Prime Minister. There will be a lot of people, and it will not be less than 30 billion annually, Mr. Speaker. There is also an expanded parliament. Parliament will be very big. Currently, let us tell the country the truth. This parliament is so big. Currently, since 2013, we joined this parliament. Those ones
Just hold on. The Honorable Limo, the Honorable Wangwe seems to have a point of order. Limo, just hold your horses for a little while. The Honorable Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my point of order is to ask the Honorable colleague. He has really mentioned that it's a person of figures. He respects numbers the way we do. And he has mentioned a figure that the office of the Prime Minister shall cost not less than 30 billion. Honorable Speaker, this is a house of record. I would want the member to simplify and give us a makeup of the 30 billion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
All right, I thank the honorable member. You know, it is also good to be listening and open your mind properly, because I said the expanded executive, which includes the Prime Minister and all other expanded structures below the Prime Minister, it will be a big chunk of offices. And therefore, if you will ask the honorable member to have a sitting with me after this so that I can show you the details. However, I'm talking about executive as it is proposed now. Expanded executive will not cost less than 30 billion. That's what I said. Expanded parliament. Currently, parliament is the cost of running parliament right now is 40 billion. But with expanded parliament, we will have almost close to 200 members, almost 50% coming to this house, assuming that we will not achieve the two-thirds. And that is the truth. So as we are talking now, most of the members here, let's say the truth, since 2013, we have been hustling around in this town in terms of infrastructure. We don't have offices. That's the truth. Even the members who have offices here are actually having corridors. Some of very few have windows, you know. In fact, with this COVID period now, we are actually, our offices are not proper. So it will actually then cost another close to between 15 billion and 20 billion if you want a good parliament. You must also be ready to build another office other than the one which is coming up. So I'm talking about cost. It will be costly. Let us not bury our heads in the sand and say I'm supporting. It is not enough for me to support or to oppose. But the truth is, it is going to cost this country a lot. And you know the people we are calling Wanjiku, we are calling Odhiambo, we are calling Chebet or Aden. They are not experts. They don't understand. So they think that it will be very, very cheap. And that's why we are telling them it will not be costly. Mr. Speaker, the biggest reason why BBI was started, when the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga met and they had a handshake, the reason was we have been having fights, and we want to kill this fight so that we will not be fighting. And therefore, when they met, they said, the reason why we have been fighting is because of winner takes it all. So that if we are running an election now, and we have maybe around two or three competitors, one wins. That winner will, assuming that we have this structure already, the president will have all the people below the president, prime minister and all sorts of people. They will take the positions. So what remains, number two, will only have one option, to become head of opposition, which is okay. Right now, at least there is a place. You know, previously, there was nowhere. You'll just go to the street, disappear. There was no space for the number two to come to this house. Now we have the head of opposition. However, the right thing to have been done is to strengthen that office so that, you know, other than the person who is number two having issues, all the supporters who will be helping him to campaign all over the country will actually will not have positions to share, you know. So what this BBI should have provided was to provide for a serious shadow cabinet, so that when there is a cabinet which is appointed by the person who has won, there will be a serious cabinet appointed by the head of opposition, and it is fully funded, so that it will reduce the pain of losing. You know, there is a serious pain of losing an election. But right now, the reason why we are not focusing on that office of the opposition is that all of us are believing that we are going to win. But the truth is, only one candidate will win with that whole team, and they will take all the positions. Will the winner takes it all have been resolved? No, it will not. So the best should have been strengthen that office of the head of opposition so that they will have fully funded shadow cabinet ministers. Then the competition will reduce and the pain will reduce because they'll be paid, they'll be, it will be a good thing for this country. And that will be reality. But the fact that we believe that we are going to win and I'm going to lose, that we are actually preparing another big problem for this country. Mr. Speaker, on representation, Mr. Speaker, the current constitution had made a lot of ground. It was actually one of the best progressive constitutions in the world in terms of affirmative action for women. All over the world, there is no other country which was really moving in the right direction than Kenya. The 47 women representatives who are elected into this House, Mr. Speaker, it was the right system to build capacity for our women. Because once you are elected as a woman and you have come here, it was actually a right thing to do so that they build a capacity. And therefore, they are prepared to even run for governorship. Why? Because they were elected all over the county. In fact, there was even a suggestion that if we want to build more women to come to the National Assembly, the best thing was to introduce another position for MCA, who was to be an MCA, a woman MCA, to be elected across the constituency, so that the capacity is built across the constituency for that lady to run for a member of parliament. But now, what we have done, we have cancelled all the 47. So all the women in this country to come to this National Assembly will start from 0. We were starting at 47. So that if you have to nominate women to come to this House, we were starting at 48, the number 48. We were sure of 47. Now we are back to 0. Whoever will be nominated to this House, you know the nomination, the equation of nomination. They will not have the same respect the women reps command in this House because they are fully elected. So the bright thing should have been retain the 47. The extra from 70, if we wanted to move to 70, the extra 23 or thereabout, yes, should have been then shared among the other constituencies who are more deserving in terms of representation. So, Mr. Speaker, I really have a lot of reservation on this. I want to say this. In terms of that Article 89, the issues of IEBC, Mr. Speaker, IEBC have their role to play. And other than considering the population, Mr. Speaker, there are so many other issues which were being considered by IEBC in sharing constituencies. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at, if we only consider the number of the population, we will actually lose it. Because in terms of costing or implementing projects, for those some of us who are coming from rural constituencies, you realize that to implement a project like water distribution or electricity distribution, you will find the constituencies in the rural or the ones which are sparsely populated are the most expensive in implementation. And therefore, if you only concentrate on population and you bring all the constituencies to the town, they will not have a lot of work to do other than maybe bursaries. There will be no schools to build because there's nowhere to build in schools. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we need to look at that. Finally, Mr. Speaker, because of time, there is a serious threat also to commissions. If you look at JSC, There was, the 2010 Constitution had ensured that most of the commissions are independent and they can run independently, and they were operating very well, Mr. Speaker. So JSC, by introducing ombudsman, it is interference. Police Service Commission, moving on most of the powers to IG is an interference. The worst is SRC, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, SRC now will be appointed by the President. The other representatives will not be there. Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and I want to say, for record, I oppose.
The member for Suba North, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, let me not use the mask because of my glasses. It becomes very difficult if I'm using both.
Yes, I think your positioning may allow you to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me pick up from where Honorable Limo has said that he wants to say no, and I want to say I say yes. I support BBI, and Mr. Speaker, one of the beautiful things in life is standing on principle and being consistent on principle. In fact, I am very amazed. I was seeing some people already running ahead, sort of guessing what they thought, which is a good thing, because I think the Standard went ahead of itself, thinking for me what they think I said. But I would want to urge the Standard to also hire people who can think ahead, because if you actually listen to the questions that I asked the Speaker, that in itself should have told you where my thought is, if you are smart enough. But that aside, Mr. Speaker, I just want to thank the Speaker for a very seasoned, very good ruling, which actually answered a lot of the issues and concerns that I had raised. Mr. Speaker, because of time, maybe if I have time at the end, I may raise them. But because of lack of time, maybe Mr. Speaker may not go to them. Originally, I'd actually wanted to speak at length about constitutional legal issues, but following the ruling by the Speaker, I might actually focus on content. And Mr. Speaker, what I would want to say in terms of content, on the 2/3 gender issue that most of the members have spoken to and have opposed, I want to say that I was a member of the Parliamentary Select Committee that worked on the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, at that time we had just come from post-election violence, and for us to be in that select committee, people thought we are the ones who are bringing the solutions for this country. And when we went to Naivasha, people were waiting for the proverbial white smoke, because if we didn't get it right, the country was going down the drain. And so, Mr. Speaker, people expected that we would fail in very, very substantive issues, on issues of devolution, issues of system of governance, amongst a myriad of other issues, issues of human rights. Yet, first day, we passed chapter 1, second day, chapter 2, third day, chapter 3. We stopped, Mr. Speaker, when we came to the issue of women's representation. If you actually look at the original draft, we had a much bigger number of women that we wanted, but our male colleagues in Naivasha, not even the committee, the Constitutional Select Committee, the group of experts, it was the parliamentarians in Naivasha, our male colleagues more specifically, who refused, and we had to reduce the over 140 women members of parliament to 47. And I remember, because I used to be a hardliner on women's issues, I still am, but to some degree I've softened. I had refused and had said we are not moving forward. And I remember to date, Honorable Martha Karua called me aside and said, Millie, sometimes it's about giving and taking in the constitutional making process. And you will not always get what you want. But do you have the substantive things that you want? I will speak selfishly as Honorable Billy Odhiambo, a woman leader who came in on affirmative action and represents a minority of the Subas in Suba North. And I will say that I have got what we want, and I will support BBI. Mr. Speaker, If you look at this parliament, we have struggled to ensure that the 2/3 gender rule is effected, and we have failed miserably. Our male colleagues here have told us to buy them dinner, buy them lunch, buy them breakfast, dance, sit, jump, frog march, do everything. And when it comes to voting, we don't even get the numbers. We are getting an opportunity to piggy ride on BBI. If you are a woman committed to women's issues, support BBI, because then it will give us the numbers. I find it very curious when I hear members talking about the issue, about our parliament, we are going to be very many. But it only comes up in discussion when we are discussing women. When it comes to the issue, I think that is the farthest from the truth. Today I walked in here, Mr. Speaker, and I think I was very smartly dressed because people are telling me, Millie, that's a very beautiful dress. I will come tomorrow with another different design. How you love my dress is a matter of choice. But in the end, I am dressed well, and I am covered. And that is what we are saying of women. Are you covered or are you not covered? So as to the process, that is up to you. We are getting women empowered. I came here on affirmative action, Mr. Speaker, and people were saying that we will not be regarded. That is true. That is part of what you must go deal with in politics. There are always the highs and the lows. Honorable Tiende Amolo was just up to a few minutes ago the vice chair of JLAC. Now he's no longer there. That's part of politics, and you learn to live with it. And if Mr. Speaker, I don't know if it is my
It must be.
Oh,
it
sorry.
must be your phone, the Honorable Millie.
And Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry about that. No, Mr. Speaker, this is somebody from a part of my constituency called Urianda. But that aside, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that even for us as women, you'll get challenges. That doesn't mean that we are any lower. And in any event, you are supposed to come in to learn politics. So if you are going to face those challenges, you are learning politics. I learned politics the hard way, and I've gotten elected now 2 times. And by God's mercy and grace, I'm going to get elected the 3rd time. Then I'll decide what to do. Having come in here on affirmative action, so I support 2/3. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I support 35% against consistency. When I was in the select committee, I supported 40%. Mr. Speaker, I can even tell you where we were seated. Some of these things is not even about whether it's wrong or right. And I can tell you who pushed for it to go under. It was none other than the Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto. And the Hansard report can bear me right. That is the one who pushed the percentage down. It was originally 40%. And Mr. Speaker, I pushed and I supported 40%. I would have preferred 40%, but 35% up from 15, I'm okay. Mr. Speaker, NGCDF. I hear people talking about how NGCDF does not help, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Speaker, unless you are a stranger from Jerusalem, where we come from, where money was not being received, because we've always been in opposition, I can afford to even call the president names because I know we have CDF. We are giving a problem to our ward reps because it's not entrenched. There are some counties that have them. Why don't others not have them? Because we have left it at the whim of the governance. When the bill came here to this parliament to pass the Ward Development Fund, it was dropped in a record 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker. And we are saying that we will pass. No, we will not pass it unless it is constitutional. And I just want to encourage members, let us not fear our MCS. Once we have the oversight for ward development fund, and MPs have oversight of our NGCDF, all of us are happy. We have something to oversight that is linked to us. And Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking my words very carefully. I'm talking of oversight. Mr. Speaker, I want to also say I'm very happy that it provides about party nominations, primaries rather, which has been a very thorny issue. I won't go into it. Again, I am actually amazed that I'm hearing lawyers saying that providing for CSS within this House is unconstitutional. Please go back to your first year note. That is called parliamentary system. It is not unconstitutional. And when I came into this parliament, we had that system. It is the best system that we can have. The system where we actually threw out Honorable Kimunya, and I'm hearing people say, how will we oversight? We oversighted him out of his position. Why? Because if right now, Mr. Speaker, if there's one thing that is, I find horrendous, that instead of sitting in this House and dealing with our issues as members of Parliament, you find members lining in ministries, looking for whether there is water, whether there is roads, whether there is this. If you are in this House, I will ask you direct, and if you joke with us, we will throw you out the way we said Kimunya must go. We will declare for you. But because when you are a member and you are with us, you will listen to us. Mr. Speaker, let me go to the, I know because of time, how many minutes do I have?
The Honorable Millie, you have 4 minutes.
4 minutes?
Yes.
That is unfortunate. I just wanted to raise some constitutional legal issues, but because of time, let me try to rush. Mr. Speaker, I know that the Speaker has spoken at length to some constitutional legal issues, but I wanted to add one or two things because of the issue of posterity. I want us to look at Article 2.3, which says of the Constitution that says the validity or legality of this Constitution is not subject to challenge by or on before any court or other state organ once it is passed. That is food for thought. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about 2.5 of the Constitution that says the general rules of international law shall form part of the laws of Kenya. What are the general rules of international law? The general rules of international law are the laws that are said, are laws that are respected or accepted by civilized nations. In Latin terms, and I'm glad my dear brother is not here because the other time he said that he couldn't understand me, we call them jus cogens principles. And these are the only rules, Mr. Speaker, or principles that you can test the Constitution against for unconstitutionality or identity. And I will give you the example: the right to self-determination, prohibition of acquisition of territory, genocide, slavery, torture, piracy, racial or ethnic discrimination. If BBI had any of those provisions, then it will raise what is called erga omnes obligations. And these are obligations towards everyone, meaning it is not only the Parliament of Kenya that will have obligations to make sure they are removed. It will be the entire world that will not allow you to have such a standards. Otherwise, for every other thing, Mr. Speaker, that is up to you based on the supremacy of the people of Kenya. And this is actually one of the questions I asked the Speaker. And the Speaker didn't mention it because I think he had quite a plethora of issues. That can we provide a system for Kenya which is sui generis and which is, which is very special to Kenya and unique to Kenya? Yes, of course, the people of Kenya can do so. And I want to give you an example, Mr. Speaker, that on the issue of CDF, I hear people saying that there is an issue of conflict separation of powers. First of all, CDF, we are actually oversighted. But should we actually decide as the people of Kenya to provide a fourth category for MPs? Because currently we have 3, which is legislation, representation, and oversight. But Kenyans have given us a 4th mandate, which is development, Harambes, funerals, and all that. Should we then, as Kenya, decide that we want to add development, then it is up to us. We can bring a system that is sui generis Kenya. This is not the Bible. The only thing that I am told that I cannot change or amend is the Bible. But we can come up with a system that the entire world can emulate based on the situation and the circumstances of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I would also want to say that perhaps what we can look at is the issue of governance. Because of lack of time, maybe I may not speak to that. But, Mr. Speaker, perhaps people have alluded to the lowering of governance standards. And that I will speak to it in relation to Article 2.6 of the Constitution. I've looked at the treaties that Kenya has ratified And we are not under BBI in violation of those treaties. Finally, Mr. Speaker, again, because I'm seeing my time is out, I would want to say that the problem we have, it's not an expanded executive or legislature, it is corruption. And BBI talks about dealing with corruption. And Mr. Speaker, based on that, I support. Thank you.
Absolutely right, the Honorable Millie. The sovereignty of the people of Kenya can never be doubted. They can provide for whatever they wish, how to govern. I agree with you. The Honorable Shabir, member for Kisumu East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Firstly, let me confirm that I fully support the BBI and the sacrifice and dedication that the two principals had to make to bring peace to us after the divisive election of 2017. Mr. Speaker, sir, today, now I want to first say, I was in the CKRC, the constituency, the CKRC was the Constitution Review Commission. My number was 406. We were fighting and trying to put together a new constitution. And I remember the way we worked. At one time, we were even singing Bila Moi, Yote na Wezekana. Now today, and you know, we came up with a zero draft. And that zero draft went to Navasha, which was butchered, drastically butchered. In that zero draft, there was the hybrid between the President and the Prime Minister. Today, I hear from my dear friend, Honorable Millie Odhiambo, that she was one of them who even butchered it. They butchered it. So what they did is took us back. And that is why BBI is now here, to bring back the sanity that over 600 people sat for something like 2 years in the CKRC to work out. We went, we talked, we suffered. Some of us, we've been inhaling tear gas since 1992. So when I hear from Millie Odhiambo that she went and butchered the CKRC, I don't know, but you were there, and you didn't support it. And the sort of people I saw there, even our president was there. Ruto was there. Ruto was there. So many others were there. Orengo was there. Amos Waka was there. They butchered our constitution.
The Honorable Shakil, just hold on. The Honorable Millie, what is out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think because this is a House of Records, we need to have our records very clear. Mr. Speaker, I was not making a constitution alone. And Mr. Speaker, I've actually gone on record to say that I opposed the amendments because I've said my position. So it's not about me butchering. It's actually victimizing the victim, Mr. Speaker. Okay. So it's not me. I was actually opposed. So I'm very happy that the same things I wanted in Naivasha are back. So I think for records it should be clear.
Thank you. Thank you, but you were there.
Proceed, the Honorable Shakil.
Thank you, but you were there. So you can tell me who was there. We had all of them. Uhuru Kenyatta was there. Ruto was there. Amos Waka was there. So many others were there. Orengo was there. They even destroyed the issue. Even Kimunya was there. They destroyed the issue of Senate. Anyway, it is good that those who sacrificed and those of us who went through the 3 years or 2 years at CKRC every day, sitting there, and I want to today remember my dear friend Bai, we are now seeing where we are coming. It is the issue that BBI is coming to handle It is not it's the content. It's there. Our Constitution covers it all. It's all there. However, the people, the aspirations of the people, the needs of the Wananchi are not being satisfied. So the BBI has had to end. And the leaders, President Kenyatta, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the former Prime Minister, they've had to put down, they have had to compromise, they've had to bring peace to this country. And they've compromised. And that compromise has been respected and honored by the people of Kenya. Over 3.5 million, Mr. Speaker, over 3.5 million people approved or went and signed support for the referendum, for the BBI. So this is the sovereignty of the people. Our needs and aspirations are being covered here in simple language so that we can know that what made us what put us where we were, what are the problems that we have had. You know, as I said, public participation is very important. Some of us feel that it is a good thing that BBI has now come to bring sanity into this discussion, because we've been talking about the Constitution and the implementation of the Constitution now since the year 2010. And the issue of the women representation has been talked about since 2010. I wanted to talk to Millie Odhiambo, Honorable Odhiambo. It is not that the men did not want the women to come in. We do. After all, my mother is a woman. We want women to come. We want them to be supportive. We want them to be part and parcel. That is what we call, when we are saying inclusiveness. Because they are the ones who make sense. One of the major reasons, the major reason that I support BBI is that it brought peace. It brought peace. Nowhere in the world, Mr. Speaker, and I have been to many places in this world, up to the corners of the Atlantic, where even further than Fiji, where these people respect and know what is CDF, where they respect and know who is Raila Amolo Odinga. They know. The people in this world know Raila Amolo Odinga and the sacrifices that he has made for the country of Kenya. You can go to any corner in this world and you'll find them that know that. I was in Nigeria one time, and it was Goodluck Jonathan was the president, because he just inherited it. And the first question he asked me was not, who your president, how's your president? He said, how's Raila Amolo Odinga? So what I'm trying to suggest is sometimes a person like this, he is not recognized or acknowledged or accepted or even appreciated in their own country. It needs somebody else to bring him. And that's where I have great respect for our President Uhuru Kenyatta, because he has seen him as a brother and taken him and said, listen, Raila, you're doing the right thing, and I'm going to join you, and I'm going to join forces with you, and we are going to bring peace to this country that has had a lot of problems. Mr. Speaker, sir, I chair the African Parliamentarians Against Corruption. One of the major problems that has been identified many, many times as the pandemic of Kenya is corruption. Corruption. That is one of the 9 points that has covered very well in the in the BBI. The only point is implementation. What are we going to do about it? If somebody is corrupt, let us take immediate action. And that's what the people want. So we are saying that the president should not need to come and tell us that he is powerless because of the system has tied his hands. I think that's what he's asking, that the BBI become a simple document that people can understand, the Wananchi of Kenya can understand. So the understanding, I mean, of course, the ethnic antagonism, everybody knows that. We know we've been tribalistic. How it came, we don't know. But we must say, let us go and accentuate the positive. There are very many positive issues in tribe and ethnic responsibility. Ethos. There was a time, Mr. Speaker, a Kenyan was loved. When you went abroad, you were told you're a Kenyan. They said, oh, you're the most friendly people in the world, the most friendly people in Africa, the most intelligent people, the ones who speak great English. You know, you understand and you're most loving and you're very honest. Mr. Speaker, you used to go to the Bay, and the shops in the Bay, if they saw a Nigerian, they would run away. They would shush them out. If they saw a Kenyan, they would welcome the Kenyan lady. It was all over the world. We have lost that ethos. We have lost that respect. We have lost the integrity. We need to regain it. What do we hear? Everywhere we hear Kenya is number 7 in the corruption, or number 10 in the corruption, or whatever. What is it? Why are we losing this? Our runners, you know, Kipchoge, he is the first man in the world who's broken the mark. I think it's a 61 and less than 2 hours. The mark. He's broken it. There was a person who broke the 3-minute mile or something. Good God, that was in 1950 something. They're talking about him up to today. So, if others can recognize us, give us the positivity that we need, give us the natural ethos. We want inclusivity. We want political systems to be involved. Somebody was just talking, my colleague, Limo, Honorable Limo. He opposed, but he said, and he said a good thing, that we want to have the opposition. I've been sitting on this opposition side now for my 3 terms, Mr. Chair. 3 terms, sir, I've been here. And we have never seen, in 2007, it was the only time that I saw the opposition was even making some effort. Now we say we want the leader of opposition to be sitting here, so that he can bring us around. So we don't want to be taken on simple issues. We want to be dealing with major issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, the leader of opposition, we have lost hope. We, from Kenya, from Kisumu, in my area, and we, the people of Kisumu, we support CDF, support BBI. Of course, we want to support CDF as well. We had lost hope in Kisumu. We had never seen those motorways that have come now. We had never seen some of these things that we are getting now. So that hope has come. When we were given a city status by Moi, Moi asked me, so Bwana Kijana, umepatiwa city, how is it going to increase how is it going to help you get unga? I said, no, it has given us self-respect. We have got self-respect. We the Luos have respect. We have a city. So that is what we are saying. BBI is ours. I want to thank Raila Amolo Odinga. I want to thank the President. And I want to thank all those who have been behind this project. Let us not find little mistakes to cause a problem. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wholly and fully support the BBI. Thank you, sir.
The Honorable Njiro Mushangi, member for Runyenjes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity so that I may contribute on this very important matter in this House. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by saying that this bill to amend the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, is coming at a time when we have a very serious pandemic. And Mr. Speaker, the period between last year and now many people have lost jobs, Mr. Speaker. Many people have lost businesses to COVID. And I must say that before I came to this house, Mr. Speaker, I was doing some small businesses around Kenyatta University. And I was very shocked the other day, Mr. Speaker, when I toured that area for a few things, and I was shocked to see almost the entire market and have the shops closed. And upon inquiring, Mr. Speaker, I got to learn that all those people have closed down their businesses because of the hard economic times we are in. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that it is only a thriving economy that can create jobs for our people. But when the economy is not doing well, Mr. Speaker, we do not expect that our people will have jobs. It is estimated that approximately 1.7 million Kenyans are now jobless. And whenever the positivity rate goes up, Mr. Speaker, those that have jobs are told that they can work from home. But, Mr. Speaker, it is good also to know that not everybody can stay at home and get something to eat. Some people, Mr. Speaker, must go out and find food for their families so that they can stay alive. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that BBI is not a priority right now. Whatever good thing is in BBI, Mr. Speaker, can wait for a later date. Because, Mr. Speaker, it is proposed that in the BBI, we will have 94 senators. Right now, we have 47 senators, Mr. Speaker. And 47 elected, 20 nominated. There are 67. And you rarely see them in the constituencies. Their mandate is to oversight the county governments. And when you look at them, they are not very busy. So I am left wondering, Mr. Speaker, when we increase the number to 94, are we not just increasing the wage bill? And listening to many Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, most of our people now want a more lean government. They do not want a bloated government. BBI proposes that we shall have the office of the Prime Minister with 2 deputies, and that definitely, Mr. Speaker, will come along with other officers and offices. Definitely, that will cost the taxpayers more. So, Mr. Speaker, when I reflect at the situation that is in many of our hospitals, because I interact with people so much, and I can confirm to this House, Mr. Speaker, that most of our hospitals are in dire need of resources. Many of them are without medicine at such a time when we have a pandemic. Many of them are without beds and very important facilities. The lives of our people, Mr. Speaker, is more important this time than any other thing. So I would urge and request that the government considers taking care of these issues before BBI, Mr. Speaker. And finally, so that I give others to contribute. Mr. Speaker, we do not require BBI to help our young people. We have enough laws in this country that can help young people. And I can remember even in this House and in the Education Committee, we have a bill that proposes to have a 5 years break for the people leaving institutions of higher learning and funded by HELP, so that they pay only after 5 years. They pay their loans after 5 years. So some things, Mr. Speaker, do not necessarily require a referendum. We require implementation of the existing policies and laws to help our young people. Because in this country, we have a Ministry of Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs. So whatever is proposed in the BBIs concerning the young people can be done by the Ministry of Youth. We have a CS in place, and I think, Mr. Speaker, all the good things that we are being told that will be done through BBI for our young people can be done through that ministry. Mr. Speaker, I represent a constituency that is very populous. And I make many trips across the constituency. And I must say, Mr. Speaker, that this government has a lot of work to do before BBI. I know of a stalled project in my constituency that has stalled for 5 years. 5 good years. The road from Kieni, Karurumo, Kadanjure to Karurumo, which is only a 10-kilometer road, which is fully funded by the European Union, but has stalled for 5 years. I have made trips to the office of the CS, met the CS, gone to the PS, raised a statement here, raised a question here, but unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that project has not gotten the attention of government. So whenever I go to those people, Mr. Speaker, every time they remind me of the stalled project and several others that need to be done by this government. So, Mr. Speaker, I have very clear instructions from my people, majority of them, who rejects the proposed changes, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, I oppose. Thank you.
The Honorable Victor Munyaka, member for Machakos Town.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Leshomo, what is out of order?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, ningeomba tu kusema.
Go on. Give her the mic.
Mr. Speaker, ningesema tu, hakika kuna majina pale. Na ukienda kuangalia, unakuta hata ule amekuja nyuma yako ameongea. I'm sure nilikuwa mbele ya Munyaka. Na leo saa hii ni Munyaka.
Honorable Leshomo, resume your seat. You're out of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I really want to confirm to Honorable Leshomo that I was here at 1:45. And actually, that's when I locked my card. So, you know, once in a while, you can be forced to go out and come back, but the card remains coded. So actually,
the Honorable Munyaka, you do not have to apologize to the Honorable Leshomo. She's out of order. And in fact, she's next on this list. I don't even know what is eating her up. I have not given anybody priority over anybody else. I'm the fairest man sitting in this seat.
I can
and you will
confirm
have the
that,
next opportunity.
Speaker, I can confirm that you are very fair.
Proceed, the Honorable Munyaka.
I would like from the onset to thank our JLAC committee together with the Senate Committee on Justice for the report. They did a lot of work. And I would actually want to say that constitutions are usually made and they can be amended anywhere in the world, depending on circumstances. The most important thing is to see and ensure that the process of changing the Constitution should be fair and inclusive, such that there is no discrimination. All cases of punishment, especially to those people perceived to be opposing it. because at the end of everything, this constitution will be for all of us as Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, I also want to state some observation which we may have noted during the process, that apart from intimidation, there is also some schemes of trying to buy support for this particular bill, and especially when it went to the county assemblies, where MCS had to be given goodies so that they can accept. I don't think that is a good precedence as a country to be able to bribe so that people can actually participate in making end law. When it comes to the issues of public participation, when I go to my constituency and many other parts of Kenya, what is disappointing is actually to note that many members of public have not even gotten the copies of this bill. Many don't know even the contents of the bill. And even those who signed were actually mobilized by the administration so that they can just sign without even knowing the content. I don't think that is good. We need to be doing proper civic education so that the public is actually carried on board, and so that they can be able to know whatever they are signing or whatever they are going to be voting during the referendum. I listened to the ruling by the Speaker. What I'm not actually very convinced is the issue of this Parliament not having the opportunity to be able to amend this particular bill. Because, you know, these committees, the Jailer Committee and the Senate Committee on Justice, met some public and they got 63 submissions and presentations from members of the public. And this house is the only house which can be able to deal with those presentations so that at least, since public participation is part of the popular initiative, so that their input can be taken on board. Mr. Speaker, when I see this, what's happening, I remember the 2010 review of the Constitution, because I was actually a member of Parliament at that time, and Parliament was used as a rubber stamp in 2010. I can remember we had 133 proposed amendments during that particular time. In fact, I've got the order paper for 1st of April 2010, and there are 133 proposed amendments. But what happened, because of the pressure from the principals and the civil society outside there was a scheme within Parliament to let every part of the Constitution pass the way it is. And then, I think I'm finishing very fast. So, Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is that we should be able to use...
The Honorable Chachu, what is out of order?
Mr. Speaker,
yes.
I really don't want to cut my...
Give the Honorable Chachu the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really don't want to take the time of my very good friend, Honorable Munyaka, but this being House of Record, is it in order to really say in 2010, Parliament was actually taken as a rubber stamp? When Mr. Speaker, sir, I served on Political Select Committee on Constitution with Milo Dambo and many others, and we actually made serious decisions about the governance of this country. It is true, the plenary had issues, but the key decisions were made by the Select Committee in Naivasha, and that's one of them. Is it in order? Is it in order for you to say we were used as a rubber stamp? When we actually...
Chatu, you have made your point. The Honorable Munyaka, you know you are assistant member.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, you know, I'm talking out of point of information, because I've got the order paper of April 1st, 2010, where we had a proposed amendment.
The Honorable Munyaka, we may actually ask you to table that rubber stamp.
Yes, I'm going to table it.
The rubber stamp?
Yes.
Please do.
Yes.
Please do. Proceed.
Okay.
The rubber stamp.
The order paper?
No. Where you are saying that Parliament was used as a rubber stamp.
Oh.
You may want to withdraw that one.
Okay, I withdraw and rephrase it to mean that Parliament had an opportunity to amend the draft. And there were 133 proposed amendments. But because of some schemes and pressure from outside, members of Parliament denied the House the opportunity to get the quorum because we were required to have 2/3 for you to make any...
The Honorable Munyaka, I think you are tying yourself into knots that you do not need. As a seasoned member, you know how this House works.
Okay.
Sometimes members will, denying the House quorum is part of parliamentary practice. So you cannot castigate the House for doing exactly what it can do within its standing orders.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I'm aware about that. I was just reminding members what happened during that time when we could not even amend a single part of the amendments which were proposed. It was just for that information. So I was actually wishing that we could have the opportunity to be able to amend any part of this proposed bill so that we may be able to correct now rather than to correct in the future. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the Kenyan situation, in 5 years, we are going to have 4 elections. 2017, we had 2 elections. This year, there is a proposed referendum, and next year, there is the general election. I think elections are very expensive, and also Kenya will take a lot of time to recover from that. I think even the effects of 2017 elections, we have not recovered as a country. We are still struggling to recover. Not forgetting the issues of COVID, which we may take more than 5 years to recover as a country. So I think it is ill-timed, and especially when we have to do the referendum this year and the general election next year. Mr. Speaker, I also want to take issue with the issue of representation, bloated Parliament and Senate. For a country of 47 million people having more than 500 members of Senate and National Assembly, I think that is over-representation. Considering that a country like USA, which has 330 million people, have got senators, 100 senators, and 435 Congress people. With their rich economy of 21 trillion US dollar GDP against our 10 trillion Kenya shilling GDP. So, Mr. Speaker, I think as a country, we should be able to do the proper priority and to check our economy so that we don't grow our public debt. Because, like Mr. Speaker, after 2012, after implementing the new constitution, you know, in 2012, our public debt was at 1.6 trillion. And now, 8 years later, due to the implementation of that particular constitution, our public debt has grown by almost 6 trillion to 8 trillion Kenya shillings. So I think this BBI should have actually addressed that part of public debt so that through reduction of wage bill, in fact, we should have even proposed reduction of elective posts and the leadership positions and even commissions so that we can save Kenyans the problem we are facing of public debt. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you very much for giving me that opportunity. I pray that some miracle happens so that we are given the opportunity to really amend this draft, because there are still many good things in this draft, in this bill, so that we can be able now to carry everybody on board and then pass it when it's already okay. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Munyaka, what will you do about the sovereignty of the people? That is good. Just think about that. The Honorable Leshomo, you are next. I don't know why you are protesting, but this is now your opportunity. What is out of order? The Honorable Gikaria, what is out of order?
Honorable Speaker, maybe I need some guidance from you. Honorable Speaker, last Thursday, the session ended when I was number 4 on the queue. Today, again, I'm ending when I'm number 5. Tomorrow, we start another queue. Honorable Speaker, because we have been here for long, can you please rule that whoever is left for today's business appears tomorrow as the first people to be able to contribute? So, Honorable Speaker, I came here at 1:30, and I found over 30-something, and I had patiently waited. Honorable Speaker, last Thursday I was number 4. Today I was number 52. I don't know what happens again on Thursday when we report back. Honorable Speaker, I know you are very, I was telling people when you are walking in, this is the best speaker that the...
Gikaria, you are out of order.
So, Honorable Speaker, we are just pleading with you that you rule that the list as it is starts off on Thursday morning or whatever this will begin again. Because you can imagine we have been here since 1, and today we have not been able. Honorable Speaker, I beg that you use standing order number 1, where you can make a ruling, because it is not anywhere in our standing orders, Honorable Speaker. So that you will be able to continue, my dear sister. We are just pleading that we be considered. Thursday I was number 4 after waiting the whole afternoon. And today again, I know I'm on your list, I'm around number 5. Again, I have to start from number 60-something. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I know you are a good man, a good lawyer, and you know, by the time you left the bench, you are a very good lawyer, and I know you'll make a very good decision. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Gikaria, you are out of order, because you know how this House works. It is true, I saw you on Thursday. I was here when we started the whole of this process. Members, you have my sympathy about all this. I know all of us would like to speak to this. But we are also the ones that resolve that members will speak for 15 minutes. It was a resolution of this House. So my hands are tied. And you know that the moment this session is over, I have no control over the next one that is going to take place on Thursday. I would have loved to sit here. If I was allowed by this House, I'd have sat here until midnight so that I clear the people who are here at least. But my hands are tied. The rules of the House are there. The Honorable Leshomo, you see, I know, I understand why you are agitated, but all of us are in this boat together. So have a go at it, please.
Yeah, asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningeomba tu kusema Mheshimiwa Spika, hakika niko moja ya kamati ya BBI task force. Ingekuwa muhimu wenzangu wangekuwa hapa kunisikiza kile tumerogota katika kaunti 47. Kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, maoni ya BBI, President Uhuru na Prime Minister Raila Odinga, kama hawangechukua jukumu yao kuchukua uncheck, Kenya bengine ingekuwa na matatizo mingi. Lakini akati walichukua handshake na tukapewa jukumu ya kusungukia kaunti 47 kuchukua maoni ya mwananchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, leaders ya Kenya, leaders iko huko mashinani pia. Kwa sababu gani tunasema hivyo? Hii maoni iko kwa BBI, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ni maoni ya wananchi. Kile mwananchi alitanuka ndio iko katika BBI. Hakuna watu walienda kujitengenezea maoni ya BBI. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa tu kuambia wenzangu kama wangekuwa hapa, waunge mkono BBI kwa zaidi sana, kwa sababu ni ya mwananchi. Mwananchi akati ya handshake, mwananchi alituambia kama alikuwa tunapigana ama kama alikuwa tunasosana, tumesahau kwa sababu ya handshake. Na mwananchi ana maoni mingi na ana akili mingi kushinda sisi wale tumechaguliwa hapa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Leaders wako mashinani. Leaders walikuwa na drive vizuri sana kile inatakikana Kenya iwe. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ningeomba tu kuambia wenzangu, tumetembea kaunti 47, maoni ya BBI ni ya mwananchi, na maoni ya BBI ama maoni ya mwananchi anataka Kenya iwe kitu kimoja. Na maoni ya mwananchi anataka Wakenya wapendane. Na maoni ya mwananchi alikuwa anasema, mwananchi, kama ni president peke yake ndio inaleta vita Kenya, kujeni mtugawanyie hizi viti, kila mtu atosheke. Hiyo ni maoni ya mwananchi. Sio maoni ya President Uhuru na sio maoni ya Raila, ni maoni ya mwananchi. Mwananchi ametuambia wanataka MCA yake awe ni mtu ana keki yake. Tumuulize kwa sababu ni ndio tunakaa naye hapa mashinani. Nyinyi mko Nairobi na mashinani ile MCA tumechagua, tunataka awe na chedi yake hapa. Na hiyo ni maoni ya mwananchi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, mwananchi anakuambia pia, ametuambia tunataka ministers watoke ndani ya hii nyumba yenu. Na hiyo ni maoni ya mwananchi, sio maoni ya wakubwa, ni maoni ya mwananchi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama ningekuwa na time ya kuongea, ningeeleza wenzangu, hii ni maoni ya mwananchi. Kuja kusema hapa ninapinga, unapinga mwananchi, sio sisi. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kile tumeona, na mimi nataka kuambia tu wenzangu, mwananchi ako na macho. Unajua kitu kama ni mzuri na unataka kupinga, unapinga hata ikiwa mzuri. Lakini mimi nataka kuambia mwananchi, wenzangu wa hii nyumba, wenye wanapinga, wapingi hii nyumba ama wapingi wakubwa, wanapinga mwananchi ile ametoa maoni yake kuwa ndani ya BBI. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka kusema, hebu tuheshimu maoni ya mwananchi, kwa sababu mwananchi ameongea na akaongea, na tuko na record zote. Maoni ya mwananchi pia, Mheshimiwa Spika, maoni ya mwananchi pia na hata kusema 30% walikuwa wanasema hata hataki wanawake katika bunge, kwanza umerep. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, vitu mingi mwananchi pia alikuwa anasema hii irekebishwe, hii iwekwe hivi. Na anataka kusema kwa sababu
The Honorable Shomo,
yes,
tafadhali, tumefika wakati wa kukomesha. Utakuwa na uko bado na dakika 8 ya kuweza kuongea. Kwa hivyo wewe utakuwa wa kwanza wakati hii hoja italetwa tena. Kwa hivyo uko na dakika 8 bado utaweza kuongea.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, ninachukua amri yako. Ndiyo. Lakini ningekuomba pia Mheshimiwa Spika, angalia wale wamekaa mpaka saa 3. Wekeni njia ya kumpatia nafasi kwa sababu wamekaa kungoja.
Ni kweli nakubaliana na wewe Mheshimiwa Leshomo, lakini bunge ni yetu sisi sote, ndio kazi yetu. The honorable Wanjiru, member for Muranga. What is out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hoja yangu ya nidhamu ni kwa Mama Leshomo ambaye namheshimu sana. Labda hizo dakika 8 ambazo wamebakisha, ningetaka Bwana Speaker akizungumza na hii nyumba atuambie nazungumza kama mama ambaye amechaguliwa Samburu ama mwenye ambaye alikuwa kwa ile kamati ya BBI. Kwa sababu Bwana Speaker amenong'onezea kwamba vile mwananchi alisema. Wenzetu wengi wamezungumza kwa niaba yao, wamesahau ya kwamba walitumwa na wananchi. Kwa hivyo ningetaka hizo dakika zingine 8 ahimize hiyo hoja ya kwamba anazungumza kwa niaba ya vile alisikiza kwa mwananchi, na kwamba mwananchi ndio akona ile nguvu ambaye amechagua sisi, ambaye ametupa katiba ya 2010, ambaye pia ametupa...
The honorable member for Muranga, what is out of order?
Ile kutofautisha kwamba yeye anaongea kama wanakamati wa BBI ama kama mama wa
You're out of order, the honorable member for Muranga. Sit down. Honorable members, the time being 9 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, 6th May at 10 a.m. Honorable members, just before we take off, I would like to remind you that there is a special sitting tomorrow at 2:30. So the House will have a special sitting tomorrow at 2:30. Have a good evening, honorable members.